Ahoy mates! I've been stuck out here at the sea for almost 2 months now. Not a crumb left to eat. I'm almost considering eating my precious pet, Captain Nibbles. But don't worry matey, I ain't gonna eat ya. Anyway, I'm sailing toward a place so dreadful, so horrifying, that only the bravest souls would dare to imagine setting foot there. It's the island of Boogeyman. Have you heard of something called serial killers? Hey, you probably heard of the Jack the Ripper or that loony Jeffrey Dahmer, but I bet you never heard of Albert Fish. Not a fisherman, but a father of cannibalism. He's done things, like terrible fucking things, to living humans. Oh look, we arrived. Welcome to the island where you learn of the horrors he's done. As a pirate, I've heard the whispers, but I've never learned the full truth, until now. Come on, fucking open, you cursed thing. Fuck yeah. I've been waiting 2 months to uncover the truth, and I hope the Book of Horrors isn't too hard to reach. Oh, there it is. That's convenient. Finally, I've got me hands on this precious truth. Okay, let's begin. The early life. Hamilton Howard, also known as Albert Fish, and was born on May 19, 1870, in Washington, D.C. He was youngest of the 3 siblings. The family had a long history of mental illness. His brother went to the mental institution. His sister had a mental affliction. His uncle had mania, and his mother had visual hallucinations. 3 more relatives were diagnosed as mentally ill. His father died at the age of 80 when Fish was just 5. His mother left without financial support and couldn't take care of him, so young Albert was sent to the St. John's orphanage in Washington, the most fucking brutal place in his life. Fish was constantly beaten and exposed to cruelty. He began even to look forward to these beatings because in his twisted mind, they brought him pleasure. He later admitted, "I was there till I was nearly 9, and that's where I got started wrong. We were unmercifully whipped. I saw boys doing many things they should have not done." Okay, let's see what happened after he got out. In the 1880, Fish's mother got a government job and removed him from the orphanage when he was 9. At the age of 12, he began a relationship with another boy who introduced him to, well, let's call them unpleasant hobbies. He learned about urolagnia, which is drinking urine, and coprohagia. Coprohagia. Well, it's eating feces. Well, what the fuck? That's not normal. The start of crime. So in the 1980s, Fish moved to New York, where he began his crimes against children. He didn't have much of education and learned more by using his hands more than his head. He became a skilled painter and decorator. Before that, he worked as a male prostitute. And this is where he started to sexually assault the boys. He lured them from their homes and tortured them in horrific ways. His first acknowledged killing spree began in 1894, when he confessed to killing and eating 2 boys. In 1898, Fish married and fathered 6 children. The kids lived relatively normal lives until 1917, when his wife ran off with another man. No wonder she left, but why did she leave the kids with him? Fish made his kids play some twisted games, like I can't really tell you all the details, but it was mental. He also liked sticking needles into his own skin. After his wife left, Fish began writing obscene letters to women from newspaper ads, like a Tinder in those days, you know. He described the kinds of horrific acts he wanted to share with them. No woman ever responded. Shocker, yeah? In 1903, Fish was arrested for grand larceny and sent to the Sing Sing prison. While there, he had extramarital relationships with men. He even mutilated one of them who was mentally handicapped. Fish started hearing voices in his head, and his obsession with pain grew. He pushed needles so deep into his body that some couldn't even be retrieved. In the 1920s, he committed most of his crimes. On July 11, 1924, Fish attempted to abduct 8-year-old Beatrice from her parents' farm on the Staten Island. He asked her for help picking rhubarb, but her mother chased him away. A few days later, on July 15, he committed his first confirmed murder of Frances on Long Island. Frances' mother claimed she saw a grey-looking man just before her child was abducted, which is how Fish got the nickname the Grey Man. The boy was taken from a park and strangled in nearby woods. It's getting darker and scarier. Let's keep going. For torturing children, he used his implements of the hell, which included a meat cleaver, a butcher knife, and a small handsaw. On October 5th, 1926, some sources claim that he killed a 5-year-old girl named Emma. However, this incident is poorly documented. On February 11, 1927, Billy, a 4-year-old, was playing hide and seek with his 3-year-old friend and his 12-year-old brother, beaten. Fish abducted a 4-year-old Billy and held him captive in a house at the Rooker Avenue dumps. The next day, when he returned, afterward, he cannibalized the body and drank some of his blood. Over the following 4 days, Albert Fish saw an ad by Edward asking for work, which included his address. Fish visited Edward's house under the pretense of considering hiring him as a Frank Howard, a farmer from Farmingdale, New York. He claimed that his original plan was to murder Edward, but since Edward was 18 years old, he changed his mind when he met Edward's 8-year-old sister Grace. On June 3rd, he returned to the Budd family. He said he would hire Edward but needed to pick him up later that day as he had to attend his niece's birthday party, providing an address at 137th Street and Columbus Avenue. The Budd family did not realize that the street ended at 110 and the address did not exist. After convincing Grace's parents to let him take her along as a companion, they finally agreed. What a fucking strange time. Imagine today someone tried to convince you to let your child go with a random person. Fish brought Grace to the pre-selected house in Rochester. While he was preparing, Grace picked flowers outside. He removed his clothes to avoid getting blood on them and then called her upstairs, where he choked her to death and cannibalized her remains over the next 9 days. The investigation into Grace's disappearance was led by a detective, William F. King, and lasted for 5 years. Albert Fish made a brutal mistake of writing his usual obscene letters to Mrs. Budd, bragging about how he had murdered her daughter and describing the details. Although the letter was anonymous, the envelope was marked with an emblem reading New York Private Chauffeurs Benevolent Association. What the fuck? Meanwhile, the police checked the handwritten membership forms looking for handwriting similar to the Frank Howard. Detective King then asked the members who had all passed the handwriting test to report anyone who had taken the association stationery. A janitor revealed that he had left some company stationery in his apartment before moving out, which Albert Fish later moved into. The landlady was shocked when she was given Frank Howard's description. He sounded just like the old man who had lived there for 2 months. On December 13, 1934, the landlady called Detective King, informing him that Albert Fish was at the rooming house looking for his letter. The old man was sitting with a teacup when King opened the door. Fish stood up and nodded when King asked if he was Albert Fish. Suddenly, Fish reached into his pocket and produced a razor blade which he held in front of him. Infuriated, King grabbed the old man's hand and twisted it sharply. This is where Albert Fish was quickly subdued and arrested. The trial. Fish's trial began on March 11, 1935. The prosecution argued that he was sane, while the defense claimed insanity. Despite psychiatrists saying that he was mad, the jury found him guilty. Fish was sentenced to the death by electric chair, and believe it or not, he was excited about it. In 1936, at the age of 65, after 2 attempts, Albert Fish was executed. Legend says that the first attempt failed because of all the needles in his body. Confirmed. In 1903, he tried to castrate a man. Around 1919, Fish stabbed an intellectually disabled boy in Georgetown. Also unspecified age, he had numerous arrests, including for vagrancy, petty theft, and sending obscene letters. Also, Albert Fish claimed that he has sexually assaulted at least 100 boys, who most of them were African Americans or developmentally disabled. He chose them because he figured out that the police wouldn't investigate attacks on them though. He also claimed to have killed at least 1 child in each of the 23 states in which he had lived. Okay, kinda regret coming here, but here we are. We should probably get out of here. Oh, look at this. I'll take this needle to add to our treasure chest. This is probably one of the most disturbing stories I've read. I know for some of you this might be nothing. Alright, let's put this into the chest and set sail for our next adventure. Until we sail again, mates, don't forget to subscribe and join me crew. See ya!